Mark here. I've got a question for you all out there. What are some of the motorcycles that you've owned through the years, and what was your favorite bike? I know a lot of you have maybe owned several bikes. Some of you have only owned one or two. Here's the bikes I've owned through the years, and I've had a lot of fun with them. The first bike I ever owned was a 1970 Honda 50 Mini Trail. Now, I had this bike in the early 70s. It was just like basically a miniature motorcycle, as you can see by the pictures. It was a 50cc air-cooled 4-stroke overhead cam engine. It was only putting out about 3 horsepower, and it was a 3-speed automatic transmission. And the top speed of it was like only at 25 miles an hour, but I love that thing. I had it when I was like maybe 12 or so, and I had it for a couple of years. I sold it, I think, when I was like 14 or 15. I was just starting to get a little too big for it, I felt. The next bike that I had was 1970 Odaka 100 dirt bike. I was in my early teens, and my dad bought this from a guy that he used to work with, so it was really like something for my brother and I to kind of tinker around with. I worked on it most of the time, and we just would kind of ride it around there where we lived. We lived out in the country. It had a 100cc engine, 2-stroke. It was a single cylinder. It was air cooled and was a 5-speed. It had a lot of power for its size. I'm not sure what the horsepower was of it, but it was pretty powerful. It was geared very low. That thing would climb. It had a lot of clearance, and it was a lot of fun to ride. The next bike that I owned was a 1974 Yamaha 250 Enduro, and it was like a dirt bike, but it had lights and everything for the street. It also was a single cylinder 2-stroke engine, had a 5-speed transmission. The top speed was like about 85. And what was cool about it, you had to mix oil with the gas, but it had a 2-cycle oil tank under the seat that held like maybe about if I remember right around 2 quarts, something like that. I don't remember exactly, but it held quite a bit of oil, and it would automatically mix the oil and the gas. You just put regular fuel in the fuel tank. That bike was a lot of fun. I rode that thing all over the place when I was in my later teens, and while I was dating my now wife at the time. The thing was quick. It was a lot of fun. It was a real light bike, very easy to handle. The one thing I did not like about it is it would foul plugs out a lot. You'd be hauling down the road, and all of a sudden it just would quit running. So I always carried a couple of extra spark plugs under my seat with the tool kit. The next bike I had was a 1981 Honda 750 4-cylinder. It was the bikes that had the inline 4. It was a 4-cycle engine. It was a 5-speed. And mine had the Windjammer fairing on it with the windshield and the fairing, and it had hard side boxes. It was like set up for kind of touring. I took that bike as partial payment for a 56 Ford pickup truck that I was selling. And this was in the mid 80s when I had this bike, mid to later 80s. No kids yet. And so I used to ride that thing just to work and back all around Middle Tennessee and stuff. It was a lot of fun. I sold it when my wife was pregnant with my son. The next bike I bought a 2002 Honda 750 Shadow Ace, and that was a V-twin 4-stroke engine, 5-speed trans. That thing was a lot of fun. It was very comfortable, good width with the handlebars. It had an aftermarket Mustang seat on it. Easy to ride. It looked good. Had a real retro look, which I liked. And that bike ran great. Never gave me any problems or any troubles. Very reliable. I originally bought that bike just to flip it. My current vehicle is a motorcycle engine powered 3-wheeler that I built myself. I call it the Phoenix 1100H. The current engine is a Honda V 4-cylinder double overhead cam. I say current because I've had 3 different engines in this thing, including this engine. When I first built this bike, I used my Honda Shadow Ace as a donor. I used that because that thing was very, very reliable and it ran really good. I had no issues with it or anything, so I used that as the donor bike for the engine and rear suspension and stuff. But it was just way underpowered for the vehicle I built. It was fine as a motorcycle, but it just really didn't have the power it needed for the larger 3-wheeler. So I swapped that out and put in the engine and whole rear suspension and everything from a 1981 Honda Goldwing. That was a 1100cc 4-cylinder, like a boxer type engine. And that thing, it ran pretty good, but I never got the full performance out of it. It just never quite performed as good as it should have. It tended to run very hot. It overheated a few times. It ended up overheating one time real bad, and it did kind of blow one of the head gaskets. So I ended up swapping that out into the current engine, which is out of a 1985 V65 Magna. And I've been very happy with this engine. It performs really good. It's very powerful. I have a lot of fun with this thing. I ride it as much as I can. So that's the bikes I've had. If you want to respond with the video, that would be cool. Or send me a message, whatever you want to do. Let's see what y'all have had out there.